and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jordan and today I have another amazing book review for you. I actually finished Haunting the Deep by Adriana Mather. This is actually the second book in the duology for her. It's not necessarily called a duology, but I feel that it is because the first one was How to Hang a Witch, and this book, Haunting the Deep, takes place 6 months later. Same cast, same place, all of it, everything's the same. They just have two different issues going on here. I've already done my book review for How to Hang a Witch, and I will link that down below. Haunting the Deep is the second book. This one is also about Samantha Mather. She is still 16. She is still in high school, and the whole plot of this book is that her school has a school dance, and it's Titanic themed, and she has some weird gifts from the Titanic time period showing up at her house, and she is involved in yet another curse that needs broken, and this book is about how she solves that curse, and all of that fun stuff. And I absolutely loved this book. My daughter, who is almost 1, actually managed to get a hold of it a couple times and tried to eat the dust jacket, so it's a little damaged, but that's okay. I loved this book. It was amazing, and it was absolutely worth the read. I know in How to Hang a Witch, I think like a total of 10 people died in the story. 7 that they didn't talk about, and then a couple that they did talk about throughout the book. A few more deaths that happened as you read along. This book only had 2 deaths, and they happened right at the end, and that is much better than the other one, so not a lot of deaths. But I absolutely loved this book, and I think you guys will too. If you liked How to Hang a Witch, definitely read this one, and if you didn't like it, then, you know, then this book is not for you, because this is the same people, just 6 months later. And I would like to actually start talking about details of the book now, so I think that is all I'm going to give for my non-spoiler friends. So I will say goodbye to you guys, and I will now start talking to my spoiler friends who have read this book. Bye, non-spoiler people. So for my spoiler friends who have read this book, I absolutely loved this book. I liked the slow-paced start to it. It kind of put everything into perspective for you. I hadn't realized that Sam was going to have completely let go of the descendants. She hadn't been talking to them for 6 months, and I'm glad that the turn of events that happened in the book caused her to start talking to them again. And, you know, I do like how, you know, her and Jackson were still friends, but she was starting to open up to him, and then unfortunately, of course, as you guys read, he used some things against her, which wasn't necessarily his fault. It was, you know, his best friend Matt, the perpetrator behind this, because his whole family has been doing this for generations, trapping the souls from the Titanic on the day before the Titanic sank, which is a really interesting plot twist. I was really excited for how this book was going to end, and I will talk about the ending of the book in a few minutes. I loved how they slowly changed Jackson's personality because he had been cursed. I like how he had slowly become less himself, and people were starting to notice, and they're like, you know, Jackson would never do that. He would never say that. You know, it's really strange that he would do that. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound like him. And of course it wasn't. He was actually cursed. And that was just that was a nice little plot twist that they threw in there to have to help Jackson, on top of helping save Sam with all of this curse stuff going on, and her dad was working against her, and everything was just, it was insane. I'm not really sure how much I want to talk about. You know, I don't mind. I don't think that there's a whole lot I really want to talk about as much as the ending of this book, actually. I was really excited for how the book was going to end. The entire time I was reading it, I was like, oh my god, you know, it's going to come to that big dramatic fight at the end, and I can't wait to see how it's going to happen. And as I was reading it, I was really disappointed. You know, it was just like watching the Titanic movie. And if you've seen the Titanic movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, it was basically she replaced Jack and Rose with Sam and Matt. And I'm like, what is happening? Why? He is Matt and Matt's dead grandfather were chasing Samantha all over the boat, just like Rose and Rose's fiance. And now, technically, in the book, Sam accepted Matt's proposal, so it was her fiance. So Sam was being chased by her fiance all throughout the boat while she was trying to escape. And just like Rose was being chased by her fiance all throughout the boat as she was trying to escape. And then they talked about how the boat broke and everything split and the boat was up in the air. And at some point, Matt's grip slipped and he fell and slammed onto one of those big round metal things, just like happened to that one random character in the Titanic movie. He fell, broke his back, just slammed into that, and then boom, hit the water. And that was over. As the boat was sinking, Samantha was trying to swim up, but the boat was pulling her down, just like it did to Rose in the movie. And then whoosh, Sam wakes up in the kitchen in her house. And I'm like, that was the ending to Titanic. You know, I mean, oh yeah, you know, Titanic obviously ended slightly differently. Rose ended up on a door and all that shit. But why the whole climax of the movie was like watching the book, excuse me, the whole climax of the book was like watching the Titanic movie, or like hearing about it from people who were there, or whatever, you know, knowledge that people have of the Titanic's actual sinking, because not many people survived. Now, I don't have the paper that I wrote it down on, and I kind of wish I did. So I may take a second to find that. So excuse me. One thing I do want to talk about is the number of people that were on the Titanic and the number of lifeboats, how many people survived, died, and all of that stuff. So if you want to write this down, please feel free, because maybe it'll help you seeing it on paper. I had to write it down to help me figure it out. So I Googled how many passengers were on the Titanic, and the number was 2,435. Then I Googled how many crew were on the Titanic, and it was 900. The Titanic was only supposed to hold 3,300 people. That is something else that I Googled. But these are the facts of Google search that I've done. So the total number and from passengers and crew is 3,335. The boat was only supposed to hold 3,300 people, so already it was over capacity. Now, from everything that we've been told, 1,500 people died on the Titanic. Now, this is not including because they had a chance to get off the boat. Anyway, the total number of passengers and crew was 3,335, and a total number of 1,500 people were reported dead, so that leaves 1,835 people unaccounted for. And the number of people who survived was 706. The Titanic was designed to carry 64 lifeboats, and every single lifeboat could have held 65 people. But because it made the deck look too cluttered, from what I've heard in the Titanic movie and what I've Google researched, they said it would be unappealing for the rich people who paid to see the ocean or just be on the deck. They didn't want to see lifeboats everywhere. They wanted a view. So they took all the lifeboats off. There was only 16 lifeboats. And that is tragic. That all of these people died for appearances and for a view of the boat sinking. You know, they called it the unsinkable ship, and everybody says, oh, this plane is never going to go down, this ship is never going to sink. It would take all of these factors for something to happen to make this boat sink, and on its maiden voyage, all of those things happened, and the boat sank. There is a reason it's called being overprepared, or doing things out of caution, or hoping for the best but preparing for the worst, which is why they should have had all 64 lifeboats, and every single person, black, white, rich, poor, should have gotten off that boat. Nobody should have died in the Titanic, especially not the children and the babies. And I know that the movie was an over-dramatized reenactment of it, but they wouldn't reenact it if it wasn't something that actually happened. And as a mother, it breaks my heart to see, to watch the movie anymore and watch the end of it, to see a woman holding her infant in the water. Because I have 3 children and I am not a white woman and my husband is white. So it makes me wonder, back then I would have died and my children are white. So maybe my husband could have saved our children, but I wouldn't have survived. And as a mixed couple in 1912, we would have been locked below as well. We wouldn't have had a chance. And that is heartbreaking for all of the people, all of the families that lost members. And it is just insane that this has happened and that nobody is talking about it. And people are like, oh, it was 100 years ago, get over it. Yeah, it was almost, it was 200 years ago? I don't know, 1912. They're like, it was a long time ago, let it go, let it go. Well, so was slavery, and nobody's let that go. People are still angry about it. So was the Holocaust. Nobody's let that go. People are still angry about it. So was 9/11. Nobody's let that go, and people are still angry about it. There are certain things that should not be let go. People need reminded of the loss. People need reminded of the numbers. Because accurately, there are almost 2,000 people unaccounted for from the Titanic. And nobody's talking about them. They're sitting at the bottom of the ocean. And nobody cares to go investigate. Nobody cares to bring the boat up. Somebody needs to care. Somebody needs to bring that boat up. But I think that's going to be the end of this little rant for now. I'm going to go back to talking about the book. I loved this duology. These books were absolutely fun to read. Like I said, I'm a little disappointed that Haunting the Deep ended like watching the Titanic movie, but, I think she could have done something much better, something different, anything so that it wasn't exactly like the movie. But whatever, it's over and done with. I've read it and I am super excited to talk to you guys about it. I'm glad to share my opinions with you. So I think that is it. So I will talk to you guys next time. Make sure that you leave your comments down below on what you thought of the book or anything that I discussed that you wanted to comment on or anything like that. Make sure you like and subscribe and find me on all of my social media. I'm also going to link both of these books where you can buy them on Amazon because that's where I got them and they are really affordable, hardback, paperback, both of them. I will link all of that down below. So I will see you guys next time. Thanks for staying and stay weird. Bye!